Hello, and welcome to this Soulstreaker ASMR video. Make sure to like and subscribe for more videos, and check out the links in the description for streams, shorts, and all manner of other things. Thanks for listening, and now, on with the video. Hello and welcome to this RetroMag retrospective for CVG Computer Video Games Magazine, issue 183 from February 1997, so just shy of 30 years old. Where does the time go? Now, little one, this is a very good one. I remember this one very well. And maybe they're all good ones. I think maybe all of them are, but then so are you. All of you who listen to these. All of you good boys, good girls, and everyone outside of that, or anywhere in between. My guys, my gals, my non-binary pals. But yeah, CVG, 30 years old. Well, 29, but who's counting? But yeah, I've gone with this one because this is the next one on from the one I did just before Christmas. So, a little bit of continuity there. Maybe we'll do a different magazine next time, but let's go with CVG. So, we will begin with the cover, as always. And, just like last time, from the top, we have Nintendo, Sega, Sony, PC CD-ROM, Arcade, Retro, but then M2. M2 is an interesting one. This was a console that never came out. It was made by Matsushita, the parent company of Philips. And it was going to change everything. Naturally, it didn't change anything. I think the hardware ended up in karaoke machines. It's a weird story. I'm sure someone's got a 4-hour retrospective about the M2 on YouTube if you look it up. But yeah, that's interesting. And it kind of dates this magazine, really. Well, there's a date on the cover, so I suppose that helps, but yeah. But yeah, cover title, Rage Racer from Namco, Fighters Megamex, Legacy of Kain, oh that was a good one, Dark Savior for the Sega Saturn, fantastic RPG, wonderful, Shadows of the Empire for the Nintendo 64, very, very good launch game for the N64, I had that one, I absolutely loved it. And Street Fighter 3, New Generation. So, let's get going. On the right here we have this wonderful render of Picky and Leon Rafale from Fighters Megamex. Contents page. So let's not spend too much time here because we're going to go through the magazine. But fantastic 90s graphic design there. Always great to see. Editorial. So they had this every issue, and this was just a little bit for the staff to give a bit of an opinion about what was going on. A few things interesting here. We have editorial stuff on the right. All of these people are quite big figures in video games journalism from this era. Many of them still work in the field or in some related field. I draw your eyes to, on the left here, the contributor credit for Richard Ledbetter in the left column. So Richard Ledbetter, still very active in video games journalism. He is one of the frontmen for Digital Foundry, now in 2026. So it's great to see that he's still doing his thing. Let's have a look at what the editor was saying for this issue. Okay, new lamps for old. Last issue, we gave away a smart little book dedicated to the history of computer and video games. Great timing, what with the buzz for old games filtering through to the mainstream. This genuine excitement reflects how important it is for games developers to acknowledge their heritage. Of course, some teams seem to make a rule of doing so. How many Mega Man games can Capcom manage in one lifetime? Maybe this is overdoing it. But the production of endless sequels shoots wide of the mark, too. By heritage, I mean that element which inspired everyone to go off and make great video games in the first place, before the marketing machine took over. There's so many games out there, released month on month, it becomes increasingly more difficult to recognize someone's genius. But I have to remind you that CVG is better equipped than any other magazine to identify the real thing. This coming year looks promising in that last respect. Far from being some scavenge for a diamond in the rough, 1997 is practically Aladdin's cave. Start saving. And we have here a retrospective of some of the top games of 1996. But let's move on. I think we covered a great deal of that in the previous video, and you can check that out on my YouTube if you want. This from just before Christmas. But let's have a look at the stuff from 1997. News, okay, Street Fighter 3, new generation. This was the first version of Third Strike on the CP System 3 board from Capcom. Now we, of course, in the future, know that Street Fighter 3 New Generation was fun, but it wasn't all that great. But it did get a lot better with the second version and then Third Strike, which remains one of the greatest fighting games ever made, so they were onto something. Mario Kart 64, Seven Copter, that's a bit obscure. But yeah. Let's keep going. Drawing is what you don't. Oh, so this was. Oh, I remember this one. They had a competition where you could win things by drawing pictures of Mario and characters from Mario. So yeah. Let's see some of these. Nicholas Peasword, hand-painted artwork. I wonder what Nicholas Peasword is doing today. Niels van Rooyen from the Netherlands. Kenneth Fager from Denmark. Andrew Wilson from Scotland. Yeah, I wonder sometimes what these people are doing, and I hope they're doing well, whatever you're doing or wherever you are. And of course, we have an ad on the right here for SimCity 2000. Fantastic game. Super Nintendo version as well. It was kind of amazing, real kind of technical achievement. But it was good, I remember playing it at the time. Let's move on. Mailbag. Let's see. So these were letters from readers. Let's just read one. Barking in the box side. Dear CVG, one thing has been bothering me. Well, I heard that the ELSPA rating on the back of a video game cannot be used to prevent people from actually buying the game, and that it is only a guideline for parents. But when I went to buy Quake from my PC, the bloke at the shop wouldn't let me. I can't understand why. If you don't print this letter, I'll... Okay, the email threatens the journalist. That's a great way to get into that. Keep up the good work. artwork in this fabulous mug, and I will keep buying forever. Jeremy Chow, Essex. I wonder what he's doing now. But yeah, the bloke at the shop knew exactly what he was doing. Quake, in fact, carries a legal BBFC 15 rating. Okay, so this is an interesting one that kind of dates things. Back in the 1990s, in the UK, following the Mortal Kombat fiasco, we had two rating systems for video games. We had the ELSPA and we had the BBFC. ELSPA was the European Leisure Software Publishers Association, and they had an advisory rating system, and then the BBFC used the same ratings that we use for movies. The ELSPA ratings were advisory, but the BBFC ratings were legal. I wonder if we still do, actually. I mean, now we have PEGI, which is a different thing. Let's move on. Now this is more like it. This was one of the best games of the year. Fighters Megamex for the Sega Saturn. Now, what this one was an unusual game. Kind of like the Swan Song for the Sega Saturn console. This was a game where they merged the cast of Virtua Fighter and Fighting Vipers, which were two fighting game franchises by AM2. And a bunch of other stuff as well, like you could fight as a Daytona car, or one of the cops from Virtua Cop, and a few other things as well. The palm tree, I think, was one of the characters. Weird game, but very good. This was great at the time. CVG really loved the AM2 fighting games, so I'm not surprised to see them give a big spread to this. And again, kind of like the Sega Saturn's Swan Song, because the Sega Saturn never got a version of Virtua Fighter 3 for complicated reasons I won't go into here, but mainly technical. But yeah, never got a version of VF3, so this was kind of like the last big hurrah from AM2 for the machine. Yeah, there were a lot of features. It was a great game. Rage Racer. So yeah, this was the cover game, and Rage Racer was fantastic. Now, I think in the annals of arcade racing games, especially on the PS1, sometimes this one gets forgotten about because we had Rage Racer Type 4, which came a while after. And I mean, Type 4 is an amazing game. I know some people have reservations about the gameplay, and I understand those. But as a product, as a complete work, Type 4 is amazing, visually, hourly, technically. It's kind of incredible. But Rage Racer was a great game too, and it kind of gets forgotten about, which is really a shame. But it also was visually very impressive, really nice color palettes, really nice visual style. I love the Ridge Racer games. It's one of my favorite series. You can see at the bottom left there, little obscurity. For Rage Racer, Namco made a custom controller called the Negcon. I think it's the Nejcon. And not hugely popular, but it had this weird twisting gimmick in the middle of the controller and analog buttons. It's actually pretty cool. I never had one. I did use one once, but I didn't own one. I wasn't rich enough. They were expensive. But yeah, let's keep going. Oh, Legacy of Kain. Oh, what a game. So, this one, many more people will be familiar with Solar Reaver. But Solar Reaver was actually the sequel to Legacy of Kain. It's a complicated series. But, yeah, Legacy of Kain was the first one. It was kind of like a top-down action RPG kind of thing. Set up the world and established the story. And, fantastic game. Yeah, this was really good. I remember really enjoying this one. great. And of course, making light of images of a real war. Yeah, you couldn't and shouldn't do that today. Killer Instinct Gold. Great game. But rare. So, I mean, even Killer Instinct 3 is quite old now, but I imagine many people are probably still familiar with it. It was a fighting game made by Microsoft by Rare on the Xbox, but this was the kind of arcade perfect version of it for the N64, and it originally found its home in the arcades and then on Super Nintendo, but then this was an enhanced version for the N64, and yeah, this was a great game. I mean, if you were a fan of Killer Instinct, I wasn't the biggest fan, if I'm going to be honest. It wasn't my favorite. I was more of a Street Fighter person, but yeah, for the people that loved it, this was, reviewed very highly. Yeah. So let's see what we got. Oh wow, something on the Game Boy, Mole Mania. Let's have a read of this one. Nintendo aimed to cultivate a nation of Einsteins with the Game Boy, it seems. First, Tetris Attack. Awesome. Now Mole Mania. It stars moles and drives you crazy. Mighty Mole is the star, whose natural capabilities are used to struggle through a series of bewildering locations. As well as being a lot of fun, there's a serious reason for his journey: to rescue his kidnapped family from the wicked hunter Jinbei. So, puzzle game. The central staple of mole culture is the ability to tunnel. Taking the underground route is often the only way to avoid harm, or else get to the other side of a wall. Early in the quest, underground is a safe place to be, free from enemies. Later it's just as treacherous as the world above. Tunneling is the only way to reach bonus stages, and is frequently the hiding place for key items. That sounds really good. Yeah, I can play that. Yeah, leave a comment if you want to see me play Mole Mania. I'll break out the Game Boy. Then on the right we'll go to here. We have, okay. We have an advert for Lone Law Man 2 Beyond Cyberspace. This movie was absolutely terrible. And I mean, really, really, really bad. I am a pretty easygoing person, as you probably noticed, right? The number of times I say when we're going through these magazines or, the retro games, and I'm like, oh, this one was great, this one was great, this one was great. I'm a pretty easy to please person, pretty easygoing. You keep me entertained, and I'll say good things about your game or your movie or your anime or whatever. But Lord Marmot too. Oh, no. That was bad. Really, really bad. And not even so bad it's good bad, it's just boring. Don't watch Lord Marmot 2. Save yourself the time. Okay, we have telegames again. Oh, I love these ones. So I love looking at the prices and see what they were. So let's have a look. So telegames, they were in all these magazines. Them and Raven Games. They advertised in all of them. They ran for many years. I wonder if they're still going. Actually, I might Google that sometime. But yeah, they were a shop, I think, in Leicester. But let's see. PC Engine, Atari Jaguar, Atari Lynx for $39.99 with a game. That's pretty good. Though actually $39.99 is probably like £100 now. So, that's worth considering. But okay, let's keep going. Crypt Killer. Oh. Yeah, if I remember rightly, this was terrible. I think it was a largely FMV light gun game for the PS1, and it was just bad. I think the The arcade game that it's based on is meant to be quite good, but I think the home version, if I remember right, it was terrible. Then on the right here we have an ad for Micro Machines Military. It'll blow you away. Getting seriously edgy for an advert for Micro Machines, like the cutest video game ever. Okay, let's move on. Road Rage by Konami. Right. This is an interesting one. I have a very good memory for all the video games, as you probably noticed. It's something weird. I read these magazines so much as a kid. We didn't have much else to do, and we had no Netflix back then, so we used to read these over and over. So I have a good memory of them. Many of the articles, I don't remember them word for word. I mean, not that much, but I remember the games very well. But this is one that I do not remember at all. So let's see. PS1 Future Racing by Konami, 1 player. Road Rage is only found in big arcades, mostly because it's such a big machine it won't fit anywhere that's less than massive. Players need to be strapped in and given a health warning before the machine spins and backs them around as they play the game. How can this experience be converted to their home? PlayStation Road Rage doesn't come packaged with an arcade cabinet, and instead it plays a bit like Wipeout, playing racing hover ships around the city of the future. Yeah, it looks kind of cool, but I'm going to be honest. In this generation, we had Wipeout and 2 sequels that got successively better, and we had F-Zero X for the N64, and between those two, they are just pillars of awesomeness. There isn't very much room in the futuristic racing genre. There was one for the Saturn called Scorcher, which was pretty good, but yeah, these were always going to be playing second fiddle to Wipeout. And of course, your standard issue, weird, perplexing advert for Virtual Cop 2 on the right there, because of course it is. Sonic 3D. This one has an unusual kind of context. So, Sega made the Sega Saturn, which was their big console for this generation, and the Saturn does not have a proper Sonic the Hedgehog title, which might surprise people given the number of Sonic games that come out, quite regularly now, but for years they didn't have a proper one. So when they made, so for the Sega Saturn, they needed one. They made one for the Mega Drive called Sonic 3D. They just did a Sega Saturn version of that where they give it a visual bump so it looked a bit better, and 3D special stages. And that was kind of it. And I mean, it was fun. I played it at the time and it was good, but you can't get away from that. It was clearly a Mega Drive, a Genesis game that had been kind of, again, bumped up to the Sega Saturn because Sega needed a game with Sonic on for Christmas that year. And kind of a shame that it never got a proper one. And that's mean, because I don't want to disparage Traveler's Tales who made this game, because they did a great job, but yeah, it wasn't what it needed to be. Let's keep going. Sandwarriors. Okay, another one that I don't remember. Interesting. A game set in the past with massive spaceships and futuristic weapons, all taking place on another planet. That's got to make an interesting game. Yeah, that sounds like it. Fly spaceships on a desert planet, following orders from your superiors and destroying your arch enemies. Eventually you can get promoted, pilot more advanced vehicles, and use enormous bombs to help you in your missions. There are loads of control options, letting you use the keyboard, mouse, or joystick, so you can just play the way you like it. Yeah. So it's like a shooter strategy hybrid. Yeah, looking at the screenshots is very much a PC game from 1997. There was a certain look to them that they had, many of them anyway, and this was definitely one of those. But, Looks kind of cool. Gremlin Interactive. They were a big deal back then. I actually remember, a little random fact, but I'm pretty sure someone's going to fact check me here and tell me I'm wrong, but if memory serves correct, the owner of Gremlin Interactive was a woman, and she at the time was one of the most highly paid women in the UK, maybe the most highly paid woman in the UK, which is just a little fun fact for you. So we have these adverts on the right here, and I love these, as you know, just looking at the prices and what they were offering. And big advert there in the middle is trying to import your Nintendo 64 from the USA. For those unaware, in the UK we had a different television standard to the US and most of the rest of the world. Our television signal was more detailed, but it had a lower frame rate, and it meant that games in the UK could be higher resolution. Sometimes they were, but usually they were just slower. So many people used to like to import their games from the United States. And there were specialist retailers that were based around doing this. Many of them advertised in these magazines. You have the Ross Records selling the PlayStation for $189.99. Wow. I mean, that's a lot of money today. Right, okay, we have an Editorial here. Talking about fighting games, RPGs. Right, okay. Let's see, what RPGs are about, right. Let's see, this magazine from 1997 gave us an objective description of what is and what is not an RPG, okay? So this is objectively correct. So let's read. What RPGs are about? A little hard to define, as the role-playing game RPG sector is so fragmented. Simply saying RPG is pretty vague. In Japan, there are names to classify all kinds: action, simulation, strategy, and adventure. Over here, we're less well catered for, and ours mainly settle into the action variety. The basic attraction is the concept of a character development: strength, speed, intelligence, and magic, against the backdrop of a rich storyline, unheard of in most action games, and exquisite locations. Typically, players are in control of one character in an action RPG, whose actions are under the direct control of the player. However, Sega's Shining Force series on the Mega Drive and the recent Suikoden from Konami for the PlayStation adopt the turn-based combat system, which is the most popular in Japan, as it allows for more outrageous standard and magic attacks. Yeah, not bad. That's pretty close. I think I did wonder whether or not he was going to make some kind of bold assertion as to what RPGs are, and you'd kind of look at today and be like, oh, okay, right, you know. Because let's face it, we know in 2096, at least I think most people do, that trying to define a video game genre is like trying to catch smoke. It's just not a useful, use of your time. Let's keep going. So we had a section on strategy games, simulation games, platform games. So the magazines often used to do these things where they would provide in-depth knowledge from the reviewers about, the game genres or individual games or game series. And this was good if you were just getting into video games for the first time and you're wanting like a primer for what these things mean. Because let's face it, lots of these terms like platform games, if you've never heard of platform games, what does that even mean? So, it was good. It was a good idea. So we have here space combat, sports games, puzzle games, racing games. I'm not going to read all this text because there's a huge amount here and that's not really a good use of time, but let's just look at a few of these things. We have on the right here that I'm pretty sure is a car from Destruction Derby 2. Wipeout 2097 down there, great game. The guy in the America jersey, vest, is a character from Athlete Kings, or sometimes called Decathlete, which was a sports game by Sega. Fantastic game. And of course, in the space combat, he mentions Elite, the original Elite, of course. And, of course, Elite Fantastic, and went on to inspire the Elite Dangerous, which is still going today. Oh wow, interesting. So they have like a kind of fact sheet. What's some statistics? What have we got here? Market share. Wow, okay, right. This is maybe the most 1997 thing I've ever seen. Okay, so the genres that they identify for video games in this graph are, and I will read them to you: war game, shoot 'em up, platform, golf, football, Doom style, car or vehicle racing, and arcade adventure. That really is something. I mean, could you imagine in 2026 if you're trying to compare the different genres of games, and not only is golf a genre that you represent, like it's sold enough to be compared to first-person shooter games. Wow, it was just a different time. Launch dates. This is always fun. Let's have a look. So focusing on the page on the right here, they used to print this every month. And this is a list of the dates for the games that are coming out. Well, list of the games and the dates they're going to release. We had here Legacy of Kain, 24th of January. 18 Cuba, that was a good game. Magic the Gathering by Microprose. Oh, I had that on the PC. The PC version of Magic the Gathering, great game. I love that. Had these really cheesy live-action cutscenes to kind of explain the rules of Magic the Gathering. That would be a fun one to stream, actually, just because it's so out there. But then, it's also probably one of those games that would be very difficult to run on a modern PC. Two Rock Dinosaur Hunter. Oh, that was a good game. Wonderful, wonderful game. As wonderful as all of you wonderful people listening to me right now. You are wonderful. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise. Dark Reign, Activision. Oh, and then of course, down here in red, well, highlighted anyway, we have the Nintendo 64, 1st of March. What a time to be alive. Contra, not good. There was a thing at the time where video games went from 2D on the Mega Drive and Super Nintendo to 3D on the PlayStation and Saturn and Nintendo 64. And there was an expectation that games would get sequels, so we'd get more Street Fighter and more Mario and everything. And some games did really well. They made the jump to 3D really well, so we got Mario 64, fantastic game. But many series did not survive that transition, and Contra is one that I think just didn't. I personally feel that Contra has never been as good as when it was just 2D and on the Super Nintendo. I mean, there's probably been 2D ones in recent times, but back then there was this idea that all games had to be 3D. And as you see there, only 3 out of 5. Bit of a disappointment for the hardcore Contra fans. It's still a decent shoot 'em up, but not one worthy of that name. And there you have it. Enigma. Yeah, RPG. This one was popular, I remember. 4 out of 5. In the UK, on the Super Nintendo at the time, RPGs were quite rare, so this definitely had a place in that market. Civilization 2 expansion, 5 out of 5. CVG loved Civilization, and to be fair, I mean, everyone loved Civilization. The Civ games are great. I mean, they're still great now. They were great back then, too. So I'm not surprised. 5 out of 5. Let's have a read what they said. Civilization 2 has kept me occupied since its release earlier this year. Now, just as players might be getting slightly bored with it, along comes the perfect expansion disc. Conflicts in Civilization make the original game 20 times better. Each of these scenarios offer a great new challenge. So when he says expansion disc, this was what, it was DLC, right? But at the time, people didn't have internet connections that were fast enough for online DLC, if they had an internet connection at all. So usually you bought an actual disc, which contained the extra missions or chapters or whatever it was for DLC. That was how they were distributed back then. Tempest 2000. Tempest 2000 is a weird game because it got 3 out of 5 here, but that's mainly just because it was old and yeah, okay, so we have Tempest X, alright. So the PlayStation version was better, it was a big improvement. They were basically the same game, but one looked a lot better than the other. But Tempest is one of those games that the Atari Jaguar was, I'll be blunt, not a good console. You know, it just wasn't. There were a handful of good games. Alien vs. Predator, the original version of Rayman, others. I struggle to remember one right now, but Tempest 2000 was by far the best game on the machine. Like, it wasn't even close. And it was so good. You see, the reviewer even says here that they bought a Jaguar just for the game. It was really fun. And it was one of those games that you could just put on and turn the lights off and turn the headphones up and just kind of zone out to that game. And, you know, one of the, I want to say it was one of the first games that did that, because that was actually a thing from the early days of video games with Pac-Man and Space Invaders and so on. But Tempest 2000 was a big revival of that type of gameplay, and people loved it at the time. I loved it too. I really can just play Tempest for hours. But yeah, what a game. Jeff Mentor, I salute you. Smash Horde by Namco. This was the first one. They did many more, and they got better as they went along. But they still had this kind of cute, kind of chibi style, and I think they were very charming. I really liked the, there was one I think for the PSP that was very good, but this was the PS1 original. I seem to remember the fourth one. It came out a few years later, and the fourth one was very highly regarded. Command & Conquer Red Alert. High 5, 5 out of 5. Well, of course, this was amazing. Command & Conquer really did redefine what people expected from real-time strategy games. I think in the modern day, a lot of attention gets paid to StarCraft, and StarCraft is an amazing game, don't get me wrong, but Command & Conquer was huge, and yeah, so they did the first one, it was great, and then they did Red Alert, which was kind of stunned everyone because it genuinely was better. Really, really great game. 5 out of 5. Well deserved. And I imagine even today, this is probably still really good. I haven't played Red Alert in a long time. That would be an interesting one to stream, actually. Maybe. But yeah, great game. R.I.P. Westwood. Dark Savior. This was, I don't want to say the GOAT, but this was great. So it was by the makers of Landstalker, which was a Mega Drive title. Really, really good game. I know it says at the top there, but yeah, really, really good. It was an RPG with lots of, if I remember, lots of different endings and things that could happen. But very unusual combat system, which had certain like fighting game elements, where I actually think you captured monsters and they fought for you in a kind of fighting game type arena thing. It was weird, it was an unusual game, but this is one of those games that I think it never hit the big time. It was never the biggest game of this generation or anything, but it's very memorable because there's just nothing like it. You know, it was so original and really kind of arresting. But I love this one back in the day. Gorgeous visual style as well. Really good, solid 3D, which was interesting for the Saturn that it had these really solid locations. Great game. Alright. Video's running kind of long, so let's speed up a little bit. Let's not labor on it. Reloaded. Good game. Top-down shooter. Sequel to Loaded. And yeah, this was good. This was fun. And Head and Center card deal. Okay, I must confess I don't remember this one. 3 out of 5. RIP Center. Legend. Virtual On. Player's Guide. I won't labor Virtual On, I think, because in the previous video there was a big feature about Virtual On in this magazine, and I must have spent way too long talking about it, because Virtual On is just one of my favorite games ever. I could just geek out forever about this game. I mean, just take like, even just on this page, Fei Yen, bottom right, the character that kind of has a sort of Sailor Moon thing going on. She had a special ability when she gets down to half health. Then she goes into super mode. Actually, I think it was probably a reference to G Gundam. But yeah, she would go into super mode and would upgrade all of her attacks for the rest of the round. A farm mode with his Tonfa and shotgun. And top right there with the military attire. And very like the main character Tenjin, but with some changes and really fun to play as. Maldas Pao, bottom left, who had a special attack where if you jumped in the air and then used the special, it had like a special property. Oh, I remember it all. It was such a good game. Such a good game. And then my favorite, my boy, Raiden, with his mega laser. Special attack, really incredible. So fun. What a game. Okay. Multi-Racing Champion. So this was for the N64. This one was pretty good, actually. Quite a good N64 racing game. And I didn't have this one. I had Top Gear Rally, which came around at the same time. And but they were both great games. Two-Rom Dinosaur Hunter. I think we'll come back to that because I think that will be more extensive in the next issue. And we'll talk about that if we ever come back to that again. But I want to get on to this one because I had this one, Star Wars, Shadows of the Empire. I had the game, I had the audiobook by Steve Perry, narrated by Anthony Heald. Such a good game. I mean, okay, it was mixed, but it managed to do something which was, it got you to feel like you were inside Star Wars, you know? I think in modern video games, for obvious reasons, we can take that for granted, because of course you're inside the world of a video game, that's what video games are for, but when 3D was still quite new, it was kind of amazing to be able to, you know, do the Battle of Hoth, you know, put yourself inside The Empire Strikes Back and do that scene from that movie. It was really amazing, and lots of great memories of this game, despite its objective flaws. Yeah. The levels, I remember all of them. See how this row in the middle here, that's the, on the left, that's the speeder bike level. That was probably the worst level of the game. Let's see, digital dance mix. So yeah, this was like a, kind of like a, I think it was like a Love Live type thing. But yeah. And then X. Okay, we talked about this the last time. This was like a 2D shoot 'em up. Not very good. Really nice visual design. for its graphic design and stuff. Very unique. I remember quite memorable, but not a good game. Okay, arcade greatest hits. So the thing I like about this one is you see that Midway were already just re-releasing these games over and over and over again. This was 30 years ago. I'm pretty sure that you can buy Midway's Arcade's Greatest Hits on Steam right now. They were dedicated. I give them that. Money for old Rob. Free play. So, in the middle of the CVG magazine, they used to have this section that was black and white. Here we go. And this was all these pages with like tips and things on them, and yeah, and wow, this takes me back. These were printed on a different type of paper to the rest of the magazine. You can't really tell that from watching this, but they were, and yeah, lots of like viewers could write in scores and sell things. Ooh, here we go. Free play classified. So these are people that were trying to sell things back in the day. Now let's have a look at a few random ones of these. So, right in the middle, Saturn plus Sega Rally, X-Men, VF, I guess with Virtual Fighter, and VCOP, which would be Virtual Cop, and Gun, Pad and RF Scarfeed, all boxed as new, £260. That's a pretty good deal. I wonder if we call Ben on, yeah, I wonder if he'll still answer. Probably not. Oh, you know what? I'm not going to blur out these numbers, but just don't call any of these people. You know, just don't do that. Because who knows? Some of them might still have the same phone number, and I'm pretty sure that John still doesn't have the 6 Mega Drive games for sale. Let's see. 6 Mega Drive games for swap, including Rise of the Robots, swap for Super Street Fighter 2. Whoa, okay. John, my man, John, you were an optimist. I don't know where you get that optimism, but I hope you didn't lose it in the intervening 30 years if you thought you could swap a Rise of the Robots for Super Street Fighter 2. You know, I respect the hustle, but it's not gonna happen, bro. Okay, let's keep going. Drawings, what you've done. Yeah, so these were the drawings people submitted. And sometimes these were amazing, that's the thing, like, yeah, these were all fun. And like, we have 3 out there, and Knights at the top right, or Virtual On found at the bottom left. Yeah. Okay, so this is cool. So they have these too. So what these are move lists for, what's the game? Hayato. Okay, so this is for Star Gladiator, which was a kind of obscure Capcom beat 'em up, but it was good. I remember playing it, I loved it at the time. If I remember rightly, Capcom tried to get the license to make a Star Wars beat 'em up, but then they didn't get it, so they just kind of made a knockoff. But it was good. It was fun. So these kind of move lists. Then we have some of our last characters for Star Gladiator. Nice render. And that. On the back here, this was how you wrote in, so all the different sections and how you could submit things to them. And I've just realised that is actually the final page. The last page of the magazine proper was the advert for Midway's Greatest Hits. That was the final page. So what do we learn? I think some kind of interesting stuff in this one. I mean, there always is. I think the thing I will walk away from this issue with the most is this editorial from Paul Davies, where he talks about how Capcom were making too many Mega Man games, but other than that, more developers needed to respect the classics and respect the heritage of gaming, and how gaming was great before the money men came in. And looking back now in what I guess you could only most loosely term as the future. It's interesting, right? Because people still say that today. Oh, things were great. Before the money men got involved, and this all became about money. And I guess it's always been like that. There's always a tendency to look back and the way things were better and more pure, and now you look at them and think, oh, now it's just tawdry and it's all about money. But yeah, that's a really interesting one. But what was your favourite thing from this read-through, Watcher? Are you going to run out and try and find a copy of Fighters Mechanics, or are you now just desperate to play Rage Racer? Let me know in the comments, like and subscribe, and I'll do more of these. There's plenty more magazines where these came from, and I always love going over these older titles and going down memory lane. The Sega Saturn and PlayStation 1 era means a lot to me, personally, so it's always fun to take a look at these. But now, my wonderful watchers, it's time for me to say goodbye to all you good boys and good girls, and everyone outside of that, or anywhere in between.